Greetings, everybody. It's Thunder Hands here. I was thinking today about how nice it would be to be sitting around a campfire, talking to different people, getting their take on different things. Because I was thinking today about praying. Now, why would I be thinking about praying? Well, look at the world. And I was thinking about how different people pray, the Native Americans and the Christians and all the different religious beliefs that are in the world today. And I was thinking about the Lord's Prayer that is taught in the Bible, because a lot of people are brought up that way, where they say the typical Lord's Prayer, which is supposed to be the model prayer. And if I was talking to somebody right now, let's say we were all sitting around a campfire and we were talking about praying, and hey, I wonder what this means, or I wonder what that means, or so I guess I'll just have to talk to myself for now till we get this campfire council thing going. But I'm always open to feedback through comments and so forth. But when you start the Lord's Prayer as I remember it, or as I read it, it starts out, Our Father, who art in heaven. Now we'll stop right there. And I wonder if people would be interested in knowing what a Native American version of that would be. And I think you would. So, Our Father who art in heaven would be Grandfather, Sun, and Sky, Grandmother, Earth, Maka. So, right there we have a difference, because in the model prayer in the Bible it's Our Father, not Our Father Mother, or Divine Mother, or Maka, or Mother Earth. So in the Native American lingo, or the Native American thought, it would be Grandfather Sky, Wakantanka, Tunkashila in Lakota, or Yusen in Apache, and Grandmother Earth. So we have the male-female principle embodied in both of these entities, the Ancient of Ancients. Overall, I like to think of it as the Ancient of Ancients. Hallowed be thy name. Now, to me, hallowed means great, or having reverence for. So that would be something that I would say, I have much or great reverence for your name, or I have great reverence for your creation and all the things that you have created. Because what does that mean, really? Excuse me. What does that mean, having reverence for a name? It's kind of a metaphor, isn't it? Wouldn't it be a metaphor for having reverence for all that name embodied, like the creation that is given to us? Now, the next part of it would be, Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Well, now let's think about that for a minute. We want the kingdom to be on earth, or in this physical realm that we call reality, as it is in heaven. So isn't that kind of like saying, as above, so below, which I've said many, many times? As above, so below. That doesn't mean that. Some people might get confused about that, because if you want things to be on earth as in heaven, why not just go to heaven? And how do we know what heaven is like in the Christian terminology? So in other thought, in Eastern thought and in mystic thought, or in Taoist thought, or in other kinds of thought, it's a more spiritual thing. And I'm not sure that it isn't in Christian thought, because the Bible as it's translated has lost a lot of meaning. And I think this prayer was given by Yeshua, Jesus, as the model prayer. And so in Aramaic, one word has many, many, many different meanings. So there could be the meaning that I'm talking about here, as above, so below. So we ask that things be manifested on this earth like they are in heaven. So when Yeshua said the kingdom of heaven is within you, that kind of makes sense, that we want things to be peaceful, loving, kind, like they would be in heaven, or like they would be in the ideal, or maybe we just want balance. So when you think about that term, you know, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. And then the next part of the prayer is, give us this day our daily bread. Well, of course, that means sustenance. There's no other way of interpreting that, except that bread could mean a number of things. And sustenance can be spiritual sustenance, or it can be physical sustenance. And I'm thinking that it has more to do with spiritual sustenance. Feed us spiritually, right? Because grandfather and grandmother earth and grandfather sky and the spirit that moves in all things and have given us everything that we need on this beautiful planet to sustain ourselves. We have it already. So we should be thanking Great Spirit and Grandmother Earth, and whoever you consider the higher power, the Ancient of Ancients. I mean, there's so many concepts of this. The Taoists call it the way. They say a name cannot be put on it. It's too far beyond our comprehension. So as far as sustenance goes, maybe That could mean what we take in spiritually from the higher realms. It's really beautiful to think about this because most people just repeat it. They just go to bed at night, go, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. They just go through and they say it and they don't really, or they say, Now I lay me down to sleep, pray the Lord That's not how you pray. It has to be heartfelt, you know. You have to think about what you're saying. Because there has to be that connection. Okay, so where were we here? Sustenance. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Well, that just means forgiveness, right? I mean, forgive and debt could mean anything. It doesn't have to be just monetary. It could be anything. Okay, so basically the way I look at that is, let us have compassion for our fellow man and forgive them for when we feel they wronged us, as they would have compassion for us. In other words, it's that old classic do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Okay? And that's a silver thread that kind of winds through all religions and all belief systems. That's the one thing, is love. Now what's after that? Okay, let me think here. Bring us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil. 1. Bring us not into temptation. Well, the way I look at that is temptation is there's a lot of different chaotic things surrounding us. Okay. And there's a lot of people that want to project their agenda on us. And there's a lot of people that want to imprison our bodies and our minds. Okay. And they do this in different ways, through brainwashing since the day we were born, through political things, through governmental things, through religion. Okay, wolves in sheep's clothing. Bring us not into temptation. So it could mean any of those things. Let us not succumb to being sucked into various ideologies and belief systems. It could mean that. And it could also mean having a control over your desires, whether they be for drugs or sex or whatever they be. But also remember, somewhere else it says all things in moderation. So it can't mean just, you shouldn't do these things. All things in moderation. But this temptation thing to me comes across more as being sucked into lies, being sucked into some kind of belief system or some kind of, because you see it so much. And why would that be in there if it wasn't some kind of warning? Okay. And deliver us from evil. Well, that's obvious. I mean, it's all around us. And even in the tribal traditions, they had the people that they wanted to be delivered from. Unfortunately, a, a big part of it was being delivered from the machinations of the European settlers and their manifest destiny. Bring us not into temptation, deliver us from the evil. Well, of course, Christians automatically, that's Satan. Well, I mean, Satan is evil thoughts. Satan is, when you say, get behind me, Satan, you're saying, get behind me, evil thoughts, get behind me, dark thoughts, get behind me, negative thoughts. It's a controlling of your own thoughts in a lot of ways. Because if you go back to that as above, so below, that as above is really you, in order to ascend to a higher consciousness, that's above, right? So below, what we think we manifest. So another part of that is, let's see, after that is, bring us down, for thine is the power and the kingdom and the glory forever, amen, something like that. Well, let's think about that. Where does power come from? Where does energy come from? Where does that kingdom within come from? Maybe it's an acknowledgement that it all comes from that higher source and it comes through us, because isn't it said that we are creators also? Now this is the kind of stuff that I just love to sit around a nice warm fire in the wilderness and have friends around me, and we could all discuss these matters, because I'm sure everybody has their take or has their feelings on it. And you see, that's what being brothers and sisters spiritually is all about. It's about talking about spiritual matters. It's about contemplating spirituality. It's about contemplating what things mean. It's about talking about, do we have the power to change things, or do we rely on a higher, more divine power like Jesus or Yeshua or Great Spirit? And then there's so many things that you can talk about that branch off from what I call the prayer. Okay, the prayer. And the prayer encompasses all prayer and all ritual and all ways of thinking. Getting in touch with that ancient of ancients, that higher power, that higher self, the sage, as in, let's say, Taoist philosophy. The sage is the wise one, the wisdom keeper, the ancient of ancients, the one who knows all. And again, the Taoists say it's impossible to put a name on it, and it's impossible to describe it. And even Wakantanka in Lakota means the great spiritual mystery. The mystery, the great spirit, the highest spirit. And Kichi Manatu And Ojibwe means the same thing. It means the mystery, the great spirit, the highest spirit. Because they believed that the Manitou were spirits that inhabited everything. And they do. Just like the spirit that moves in all things. There is a spirit that moves in all things, and this is nature. Okay, this is nature. So whenever you pray, you want to think about reverence. And you want to think about how that higher consciousness can connect with yourself. And it's really kind of mind-boggling to think about how we live in the duality, what I call the duality of right and wrong, yin and yang. And how we rise above that duality sometimes when we're in our good self or God self. Actually, good means God, if anybody didn't know that. Good means God. That's where the word came. Those two words are connected. To the best of my knowledge, I believe I read that somewhere. I think it's true. Wouldn't want to mislead anybody here, but seems like it would be true. Good God. Good God. You know, those two words are sometimes used together. But this is about prayer, and this is about reverence, and this is about the prayer in general, and how it's really just a vehicle to connect to that higher self, to that. And when you go into meditation, that's a prayer. Because when you go into meditation, like, let's take for example the meditation where you concentrate on the third eye, or the chakra that's between the eyebrows, the energy center. And you close your eyes, and when you get to a certain point, you see that light in there. It's like a connection with all that is. Or when you hear the mantra, the Om mantra, that's the universal sound. It's almost like a hiss. If you're quiet enough and you're in a quiet place, you can hear it. Most people go, what? Seriously. It's a hiss in your ears. It's the sound of all things being created. Now, if everybody became the prayer, but not just verbally, okay? If everybody thought in a reverential manner, if everybody became a living prayer, embodying all the things that we just talked about, then what would this planet be like? Think about it. What would this planet and this world be like if everybody walked around as a living prayer, a living, breathing prayer of all of those concepts about reverence and thankfulness and forgiving your fellow man and as above so below and the bounty of the earth? And would people be destroying the earth? Would they be killing one another? Would there be wars? Would there be hatred? Would there be any of these things? I think we know the answer to that. So we'll just leave it there for today. But before I go, I wanted to, my finger's pointing down here because this is on YouTube and there's an about section and a share section and all that stuff. Most people, I have to say this slowly so people get, because I don't think sometimes they get that if you click that little about, there's a description of this video and then there's links in there, and I put a link in there to the Campfire Council, which is now a legal entity incorporated as a nonprofit. And that's kind of my dream, to bring all men together. And maybe, well, if you go to the website, Campfire Council, it says about the Campfire Council, and it gives the credo, or whatever you want to say, the description of the Campfire Council. But it's about, getting outside of the cities and sitting around that campfire and being able to talk to one another. It's a state of mind, really, but it's also it could be a physical state of being. So I want you to check that out and just see if you're interested. And there's all kinds of different things on the site, resources and stuff that you can check out, including these shows. People need this right now. They need this kind of thing. They don't need people yelling at them through YouTube about all the different things that are going on in the world. We basically know what's going on if you're aware. We do operate on donations, so I appreciate any donations, because that would help right now. And there is a donation button there where you can, if you feel you want to give from the heart, you can do so. And then there's links to my books, which Listen to the Wind, Speak from the Heart is an award-winning book by Divine Arts, and it has a lot of the things that I talk about. So if you want to check that out, you can too. So I'll leave it there for today and just say blessings to you all, and may peace be with you, and may we all somehow as one be that living prayer where we can hopefully change the things that we see around us that are temptations, or call upon that higher spirit to aid us in having a more peaceful life. Blessings to you all.